Thank you. It's 9 o'clock, so I'll call the meeting to order. I'd like to begin by acknowledging that we're in Treaty 1 territory and the traditional homeland of the Métis Nation. As directed by Manitoba Health, we're requesting people avoid close contact, that being within 2 meters, with anyone showing symptoms of a respiratory illness, such as coughing or sneezing. If you're experiencing flu-like symptoms, we're requesting that you excuse yourself from the room. I'd like to introduce the members of the panel. At the committee room is Ms. Lori Davidson, and joining via Zoom is Mr. Robert Hutchings. My name is Stu McPherson. I'll be chairing the hearing today. The recording secretary is Ms. Cara Belshaw, and representing the City of Winnipeg Assessment Taxation Department is Mr. Matthew Harlan. Excuse me. We'll be hearing applications for the revision of the assessment roll in accordance with the Municipal Assessment Act. The matters for which revision is requested have been described in each application, and we'll limit discussion to those matters. The statements that are made at this hearing are sworn testimony. Anyone speaking to the matters must be sworn in. Please be advised that comparisons of assessments of properties are not considered evidence of market value by the Board of Revision. The Board of Revision is appointed annually by Council. It's independent of it and the City Administration. It makes its decisions on the basis of the evidence provided at this hearing and issues a written order that will be mailed to all parties as soon as possible. Please note the Board's decisions with respect to an application may be appealed to the Manitoba Municipal Board if the matter pertains to assessed value or classification, or to the Court of Queen's Bench if the matter pertains to the application of exemptions from taxation. Should you wish to appeal, information on how to do so will be included with the Board's order. With respect to the hearing process, I'll confirm the matters to be addressed with each applicant following the swearing in. We'll then have the assessor's testimony followed by questions the applicant may have, and then the applicant's testimony followed by questions. Each side will have an opportunity to summarize if they so wish. Once all the evidence about an application has been brought forward, the applicant may leave, and the process will repeat for each item on the docket today. The session will close after all the applications have been heard, and the Board will deliberate in private and make its decisions. We receive the order by registered mail as soon as possible. Just as information, all public hearings are live streamed, recorded, and will be part of the public record. Use of cell phones is not permitted except with approval by the chair. If you do have a cell phone, please put that on silent. And Ms. Belshaw, I'll have you swear in the parties, please.
All right. Mr. Assessor, for the record, please state your name.
Matthew Russell Harling.
Do you affirm the evidence you'll present today is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you. And Mr. Applicant, for the record, please state your name.
Marcelo Navarro.
Do you affirm the evidence you'll present today is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you.
Morning, Mr. Navarro. You're here representing the owners of 7 business premises, and it's the annual rental value that's in question?
That's correct.
Okay, thank you. So we'll just deal with them as they're listed on the docket. So the first property we're going to hear is 1309 Mountain Avenue. So when you're ready, Mr. Assessor, we'll hear from you, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The file number is 20-845. The roll year is 2021, based on a market reference date of April 1st, 2018. The address is 1309 Mountain Avenue, and the owners are Feed and Feed International Limited. If you look below my brief under the subject bit heading, again, you'll see the premise address is 1309 Mountain Avenue. We are assessing a total leasable area of 25,000 square feet, and we are applying a model rent of $4.92 a square foot, which gives us a total annual base annual rental value of $123,000. If you look to the right of my brief under the occupancy costs, you'll see we are assessing heat, electricity, and water for full occupancy under the 25,000 square feet, and only 3,000 square feet of the area is air conditioned, so we are only assessing that space for the air conditioning. This gives us a total occupancy cost of $53,770, which gives us a total annual rental value of $176,760. You look below my brief under the subject lease information, you'll see this property is owner occupied, so there is no lease in place. And further below that, you'll see my list of my rent comparables. Now, my rent comparables, they range from sizes of 20,000 square feet, 20,800 square feet, up to 30,000 square feet, 30,004 square feet. So within, well within the range of the subject property, give or take 10,000 or a couple thousand square feet here and there. And my rents, they range from $5.50 a square foot up to $8.49 a square foot. Now, the actual comparables, they're actually very close to the subject property: Hutchings, Paramount, Church, Mountain. These are all very close to the same subject property in the same market region. The lease, if you look at the lease start dates, they vary from 2016, 2017. There's a longer term lease at 2012. But you'll see the range of the actual rents. Like, for example, they fall within the much higher than the actual model rent we've applied for this particular property. And my comparables as well, they are very similar in terms of, again, like size, location, as I said, age. I believe the subject property is 1977, effective year built. And many of my properties are in comparables are within 1975 through 1980. So they're close in age as well. So I believe my comparables support the model rent we have supported here. So that being the case, I feel the assessed value at $176,760 is fair and equitable, and I ask the board to confirm the value. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Assessor. Mr. Navarro, questions for the assessor?
Yes, I do. In terms of the rent, the base rent that was applied to the ARV, not the total ARV, but the base rent.
Right.
Was this model driven, or was this adjusted in any way?
As far as my knowledge, this is just a model driven rent. So.
Okay. And the rent comparables that you've chosen here, were these chosen by you, or were they chosen by the model?
Well, like I chose these particular comparables, yes. So.
Okay. And in terms of the subject property and the comparable properties, did you consider any physical conditions, for example, the age of the buildings, the height of the walls, etc.?
Yes, I did. Like I actually took into account the wall heights as well as the effective year builds. Some of my, like as I was saying before, some of the buildings, for my comparables, they range the ages from. I think the oldest I have is 1973, whereas the newest is 1989. So there is one that is slightly newer. I won't dispute that. Wall heights, again, similar kind of range. I think it's 19 feet for this and 20 feet around or rough for the most of my comparables. So.
Okay. That's not in your particular brief, though. You have that at hand?
Yeah, that's just, I apologize. I didn't put that in but just
okay.
I have in my hand. So.
Okay. Those are my questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Davidson, any questions for the assessor?
I have no questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Hutchings, questions?
I am good. Thank you.
I just have one. Your comparables, you said they're close in proximity. They also close in the age.
Right.
But what about the percentage? I'm assuming that the air-conditioned area of 3,000 is office area in the subject.
I believe I honestly I unfortunately wasn't able to inspect the building, so I can't say for certain. But I would assume that, yes. So.
Okay. And would you happen to know on your comparables if it's the same sort of percentage office area in those?
Unfortunately, I don't know I didn't have the information on the actual air conditioning.
Okay. Okay. Thank you. Mr. Navarro, when you're ready, we'll hear from you, please.
Okay. Just give me 1 second while I look at the brief. Okay, this is Freed International Limited, 1309 Mountain Avenue, roll 19802. If you scroll to page 2 of the brief, you can see an outside picture of it. The assessed area that we're looking at today is 25,000 square feet. Going on to page 3, you can see some overhead pictures of the property. And page 4, the general location. And as many of you may know this as Inkster Industrial Park. Page 5, the applicable legislation. I will not go over that. In terms of the premise description, again, this is 1309 Mountain. 93,567 square feet is the size of the lot. M2 industrial zoning. And as you can see here, the wall height is 19 feet. In terms of the market rent, again, the city has applied a rent of $4.92. As you can see here in the blurb on page 4 at the very bottom, there is a paragraph there. 21,630 square feet of warehouse unit within 1309 Mountain adjacent to the subject is leased arm's length at 633 semi-gross. Landlord pays utilities commencing May 2017 for 3 years, deducting utility and expenses of $2.11 per square foot based on the city's assessed rates, results in a net rent of $4.22. Of course, we didn't use that. We went to a market approach 2 here. These are the comparables that I have here. And again, they're in the similar area too. Paramount is 65 Paramount, which the assessor has also used. It's a large complex, multi-tenant complex. This, I believe, is 1670 Inkster. And this is a recent lease that we just found with a step up here on 8/1/2017. It's a little bit larger, 1974, 22 feet, and it's 405. And again, here you can go through these. The list of the average of the comparables that we've listed here is $4.71. Occupancy costs, as you can see there, these are the standard occupancy costs that are applied. In terms of the rent that we've applied a rent of $4.50 with the applicable occupancy costs adjusting for the air conditioning, just as the assessor has adjusted at $3, giving us a total ARV of $166,270, rounded to $166,260. Beyond that, you can see in the appendices, these are the leases that we've used in the building comparables. You can see a picture of all of them. And that is my presentation. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Harlan, any questions for the applicant?
No, I'm good, thank you.
Ms. Davidson?
I have no questions, thank you.
Mr. Hutchings?
I am good, thank you.
I think I'm good as well. Your only contention here is the market rent, the base rent, $450 versus the $492 that the assessor is using.
That's correct.
Thank you. Okay, my assumption that I'm going to make is that neither party is going to want a summation on any of these properties. However, if you do, please say so at the time, and I will allow that as well. So we'll move on to the next property, which is 43 Bunting Street. So when you're ready, Mr. Assessor, we'll hear from you, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The file number is 20-855. The roll year is 2021, based on market reference date of April 1st, 2018. The address is 43 Bunting Street, and the owners are Power Ridge Corporation. If you look below my brief under the subject bid, again, you'll see the address is 43 Bunting Street. We have this broken down into 2 premises in our for how we assess it. First, I'll go over both of them, and then I'll go over the first one, for example. The first premise is 18,048 square feet. You're applying a model rent of $5.56 a square foot, which gives us a base annual rental value of $100,347. If you look to the right of my brief under the occupancy costs, you'll see we are assessing the total area under for heat, electricity, water, and air conditioning. This gives us a total occupancy cost of $44,218. Gives us a total annual rental value for this premise at $144,540. Now, if you look below that, you'll see the secondary premise we have at 5,280 square feet, which has a model rent of $7.01, which gives us a base annual rent value of $37,013. Again, if you look to the right of my brief under occupancy cost, you'll see we are assessing the entire area for this particular premise, which gives us a total occupancy cost of $12,936. And including that with the base annual rent value, we get a total annual rent value at $49,920. Now, if you add both of those premises together, you get a total annual rent value of $194,460. And the total area, if you combine them together, would be 23,328 square feet. And another thing I'd like to just kind of note, just to give the board some information, if you took the both rents together and had a blended rent, the overall blended rent would be $5.88 a square foot. That would be if you did them together. Again, in our system, we had them separate because at one point this particular property had multiple tenants, 2 tenants in it, but obviously since then it's one tenant, obviously, at this point. If you look below, you'll see the subject lease information. You'll see this is owner occupied, so there are no subject leases in place. And further below that, you'll see a list of my rent comparables. Now, in terms of my rent comparables, I've broken them up into 2 separate sections. I have 4 comparables in the lower range for the lower premise area, and then I have a few that are higher for the larger premise area. So for the smaller premise area, 5,280 square feet, I have 4 comparables that range from 5,453 square feet up to 8,000 square feet. And those rents range from $6.50 a square foot to $8.75 a square foot. They're also in the same areas of subject property: Church, Hecla, Spruce, and Fife. You'll see the leases are 2016, 2015, 5-year leases. One is a 10-year lease. So I believe those rents support that particular rent, model rent you'd applied. And if you look below that, you'll see I have other comparables that range from 15,000 square feet up to 20,000 square feet, that range from age of rent of $5.50 to $7.73 a square foot. Again, these are Bunting, Hutchings, and Inkster. These are also very similar location subject property. Again, you'll see the lease start dates and the lease terms as well. And I believe those rents, they support that rent as well for the larger premise area. And again, like I mentioned with the previous brief, these buildings are very similar in size to such a property in terms of age and the wall heights and such as well. So that being the case, I ask the board if they can confirm the value at $194,460. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Navarro, questions for the assessor?
Yes. And again, this is all model driven in terms of the rent.
Correct.
Okay. And the comparables that are listed in your brief are chosen by you?
That is correct, yes.
Okay. Now, can you tell me what the roof height is on 43 Bunting?
43 Bunting. We have a range of 14 to 19.
Sorry, wall height, not roof height.
Oh, so yeah. I believe it's because there's multiple buildings, so we have a range of 14 to 19 feet in that range. So I don't know I don't have the breakdown of which is higher than in terms of percentage of roof height. So
now, what would you consider typical for an industrial building of this age?
Of this age, I'd say in the 20 feet range, 20, 25 feet, ideally. But it's not unheard of to see, somewhat smaller.
So in some cases, this is actually below what the typical standard would be for a building of this age in this area for this type of property, right?
In some cases, yes.
Okay. Now, and you'll note that I probably want to point out that we have, the next thing that I want to point out is, in terms of a question, is there a need to actually break up these premises considering this is one tenant?
We have an effective year built. I mean, we have, there were some portions of the building built in 1968, as well as we have the most up-to-date one in 1993, based on my evidence I have here, information I have from our system. So yes, there's a range, and the effective year built would be 1979 is what we have. So. Okay,
but this particular I don't know what to call them, tenant, premise owner, they're occupying 23,328 square
Correct.
feet, correct?
Yes. Yes.
Okay. Now, in terms of similarity with the last property, would you say that there's a similarity in terms of the overall size, area, maybe wall heights?
Yeah.
Why-
I don't dispute that. Yes.
So my next question is, why is there such a discrepancy in terms of the overall base rent between this property and the previous property, considering the parameters are similar?
Well, again, like I said, I understand there are similar parameters, but no two buildings are the exact same. So I can't speak to the specifics as I didn't inspect the property. So there may be, physical things such as like it may not be in the other property wouldn't be had some physical ailments and such that I'm not aware of. So I can't unfortunately speak to the specifics of that. So, but
Okay. Now, I suppose if you were breaking apart this property because there are different occupants here, then there would be a need for rents of a smaller size, correct?
correct. Yeah.
Okay, and that is why you've listed some of these smaller areas in there, right?
That's correct.
Okay. Those are my questions.
Thank you. Ms. Davidson, questions for the assessor?
Yes, it's just really clarification because I was having a little bit of trouble hearing you.
Sorry.
What did you say the reason for your breakdown of the building was?
Well,
Between the 18.5. Sorry?
Looking at the history of the building, there was at one point, like the building has obviously changed hands in other times. So basically at one point there was two businesses that actually had, like in our system, we had it as two separate businesses that were using portions of the space at one time. So obviously now it's considered, it's owned by one owner and they're using the entire space. So that's why we have it. We had it broken down previously for that reason. So we could, at some point, combine them together, I guess, but it works out to the same thing. If we use the blended rent, for example, and we add them together, so the overall annual rent value would be the same.
So it's mostly historical then?
Correct. Yeah. In this case. Yeah.
Okay. And just quickly, because I was having trouble earlier hearing, what was the reason for the difference in the base ARV per square foot? Like the 556 versus 701?
Oh, well, the fact of the larger premise is going to have a lower rent, based on the fact of, a larger area is going to have usually will have a lower rent due to the fact that it's easier to, it'd be a lot easier to rent out a larger premise opposed to a smaller premise. It'd be more,
okay.
Comes to, scale, like, a larger premise is going to, generate a lower rent, a lower one would draw a higher rent just due to the fact that it's easier to rent out a smaller space than a larger space, for example.
So has it been sort of reconfigured if it's just one user right now?
Yeah. Yes. Like I said, overall, when we assessed it overall at like a blended rent, took the both rents together, it would be $5.88 a square foot. That would be the blended rent for them together. So.
Okay, so that's blended, like not just arithmetic average, but based on size, right?
Exactly.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Mr. Hutchings, any questions?
Yes, thank you. Good morning, Mr. Harling. Yep. Just to confirm, the effective age on the property is 1979?
That's what we have. Like I said, there was multiple buildings that were built in different ages, but the overall effective year built 1979 is what we have in our system. So.
Okay, and we had a majority of it. When we look at this breakdown of the premise area, is the 5,280 a newer addition, or is it, or am I?
Unfortunately, I don't know if 100%. I'd have to. We do have field forms, but I just don't have that with me. I apologize, so I can't speak exactly. So.
Okay, yeah, fair enough. And the blended rate is $5.88 a square foot.
That's correct.
Based on the two premise IDs here.
Correct.
Okay. And wall height, I think there was a reference, or you stated that some of it was 14 feet to 19 feet range.
That's correct.
Is a majority of it 19 feet? Can you tell me, or would you have that information?
Apologies. Unfortunately, I don't know. Unfortunately, because I haven't inspected the property, so I can't speak 100%. So.
Okay. That is all my questions. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. I would have no further questions. So we can move on to Mr. Navarro. When you're ready, we'll hear your evidence, please.
Okay, this is 43 Bunting Street, roll 51522. Page 2, you can see our assessment summary with a picture of the property outside, overhead pictures, and bird's eye view also on page 3. Applicable legislation on page 4. On page 5, we get into the property description here. So again, this is built in between 1968 and 1993, different stages. This is very typical of Inkster Industrial Park. The effective year assigned by the city of Winnipeg is 1979, 23,328 square feet. And as mentioned before, this is one tenant. The wall heights range between 14 and 19. Here we see the breakdown. You can see that there's a slight error on number 3. That should actually be 19. So 1968, the original portion was 9,600 square feet. That is 14 feet. The second portion was built in 1988. That is 8,448 square feet. And that is 16 feet wall height. And the third portion built in 1993 is 5280, and that is actually 19 square feet. So as mentioned here, 77% of the floor area has a wall height of 16 feet or less. The property was purchased in April 2016 for $1,275,000. The purchaser removed the front office section and installed a dock leveling loading system. The permit cost of the renovations were $50,000. Then you see the site specifics, or the site area specifics here: 53,905 square feet, 1.24 acres, and 2 zoning. In terms of the leases that we've used, very similar leases to the previous property. Those came out with an average of $471. We are asking for a rent of $5.25 per square foot. And there you see our workup here. Our rounded ARV is 179,580. And beyond that, you can see some of the same comparable information here. That is my brief.
I thank you. Mr. Harlan, questions for the applicant?
No, I have no questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Davidson?
I have no questions either, thank you.
Mr. Hutchins?
No, I'm good, thank you.
And I have no questions. Thank you. Just going to pause briefly for a moment here. I'm going to get a blind drawn. Sorry about that. We'll move on to the next item then. That being item number 4, 3 Winfield Way. When you're ready, Mr. Assessor, take for your brief, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The file number is 20-856. The roll year is 2021, based on a market reference date of April 1st, 2018. The address is 3 Winfield Way, and the owners are Power Ridge Corporation. If you look below in my brief under the subject heading, you'll see again the address is 3 Winfield Way. The total premise area, or leasable area we're assessing, is 34,238 square feet. We are applying a model rent of $5.80 a square foot, which gives us a base annual rental value of $198,580. If you look to the right of my brief, you'll see under occupancy costs, we are assessing heat, electricity, and water for the whole area, and only 100 square feet of the area is being assessed for air conditioning, which gives us a total occupancy cost of $72,276. Add this to the total base annual rental value, gives us a total annual rental value of $270,840. If you look below in my brief, you'll see this is a owner-occupied property, so there are no subject lease information. And below that, you'll see a list of my rent comparables. My rent comparables, you'll see they range from size of 21,080 square feet up to 31,376 square feet. So within the range of the premise itself. You'll see the reported rents, they range from $5.50 a square foot up to $6.95 a square foot. And you also see some of the information in terms of my lease start dates and lease terms. In terms of location, some of these properties, the comparables, Mountain Avenue would be slightly further away from the subject property. Notre Dame is within the same region. Sergeant Sherwin, they're in the St. James, so in kind of the same market area. And then King Edward as well, and then Key Wakeman would be slightly further away. So I believe that the comparables are within a good range of the subject property. So that being the case, I feel the model rent we applied at 580 is supported by my comparable rents as well as the areas. So that being the case, I asked the board to confirm the value at $270,840. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Navarro, questions for the assessment?
Yes. In terms of your comparables, do you have any of the wall heights of the comparables and the effective ages?
I do actually, yes. Is there any specifics you would like or install them? Or?
In comparison to our subject, what is the average wall height for our subject versus your comparables?
The subject wall height, we have a range of 17 feet to 22 feet. In terms of my comparables, the lowest I have at 1500 King Edward is about 13 square feet or 13 feet for wall height, and the largest being Key Weight at 26, and the majority of mine are at 21 or 22 square feet, 22 feet. I apologize. And the ages range from 1960 to the oldest at King Edward, and the newest would be at 1984 for the Mountain Avenue. So in that range. So.
Okay. And again, this is all model driven. You've chosen the comparables though, right?
That is correct.
Okay. Those are my questions.
Thank you. Ms. Davidson, questions for the assessor?
No, I have no questions. Thank you.
Mr. Hutchings, any questions?
No questions, thank you.
I have no, well, you did say your rent comparables, some of them were outside the range. This is what Omen's Industrial Park?
Yeah, Omen's Creek would be, yeah. So kind of, exactly, kind of around, yeah.
And there aren't a lot of comparables in that.
Of that size, I couldn't find ones I was trying to find ones of, so again, as close as I can to the subject property. So, I couldn't find ones as supported as well as I as these ones.
Okay,
so.
thanks. Okay, Mr. Navarro, we'll hear from you, please.
Okay, again, this is 3 Winfield Way, roll number 42090. If you turn to page 2, you can see a summary of our property and a general picture of the property. As you can see, it's not what I would call a very modern building, appropriate for its age. There you can see the site location and a bird's eye view on page 2. The applicable legislation on page 3. Premise description here. Again, this is in Omen's Creek, constructed in 3 stages, as you can see here. The first stage being 1980, 1997, and 1998. So the largest portion of this property is 22 feet of wall height, the smallest portion being 17. Overall, 34,238 square feet. There's some mezzanine area. And again, this is an open truck loading shelter constructed in 2014. Sorry, an open truck loading shelter constructed in 2014. These improvements simply provide an overhead shelter during loading of owners' fertilizer products, ensuring rain does not enter the truck trailers during the loading process. Site characteristics there. These are the market rents that we've chosen here. We have a range here, again, in terms of ages and sizes. zoning, wall height, an average of $5.51, median of $5.50. We are asking for a rent of $5.50 per square foot. The applicable occupancy costs, the calculation of our ARV. So we came out to 260,580 rounded. And going on into the appendix, we can see the interior photographs. As you can see, this is a dated design. There are a lot of there's a lot of space in here being utilized simply as storage space. As you can see there. I'll let you go through those, but that is my brief. Thank you.
Thank you.
Questions?
Mr. Harlan, any questions for the applicant?
I have no questions, thank you.
Ms. Davidson?
Just quickly, you have a number of comparables. So are the main things that you're seeing different from the comps you've used and the subject property age and usable space and ceiling height?
Yeah, so what we try and focus on are the characteristics that that compare to our subject. So age, wall heights, area, if possible, condition, construction type. This is kind of a difficult one, as there was some difficulty finding leases in this area. But as you can see from the pictures, this was fairly dated. It's actually probably, in terms of its physical characteristics, the stuff that we've already looked at in Inkster Industrial Park is probably a little bit better. And the reason being is that Inkster Industrial Park is probably just a little bit newer than this area. Not drastically newer, but a little bit newer. So yes, we are looking for similar physical characteristics, age, wall heights, if possible, the land to building ratio. That is the reasoning for also including some of those things in there. I hope that answers your question.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you very much.
Nothing further, Ms. Davidson?
No, thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Hutchings?
Yes, thank you. Mr. Navarro, good morning.
Good morning.
Page 4, what effective age do you have on the subject property? I think it was found in 1985, according to the assessment department.
Typically, what we do is go with what the assessment department says. So you can see here in the chart there on page 4.
Yeah.
You can see the different stages here: 1980, 1980, 1997, 1998. So probably around 1985. Oh, right here. I guess we have 1985.
Actually, I'm finding it now.
Yeah.
You're saying 1985. Okay. Yeah. Okay. And all your comps on page 5, I guess they're all in the 60s and 70s. Majority in the 70s, I guess. Mid 70s maybe would be an average.
Yeah, I would say that's probably an accurate representation of the age for the comparables. But as you can see through the pictures, I mean, this is not your typical industrial building. That even comparing it to the previous ones that we've looked at, a lot of it is just basic steel frames, steel corrugated steel walls, very much like, you know, large industrial sheds. So in that sense, it's probably inferior to some of the properties that we've looked at.
Okay, fair enough. Okay,
Yep.
Thank you very much. That's my only questions.
Yep.
Thank you. You mentioned the truck loading shelters. They're not assessed, are they, as part?
No.
You can confirm that, Mr. Harling, that
Yeah, we don't have assessed. No, we just assess the building itself. Yeah, so.
Thank you. And I think you stated that it was difficult, as did the assessor, to find comparables in Omens Creek. Are any of your comparables in that area?
If you scroll to the board there, the only ones that would be close would be Century. I wouldn't even say Keewatin. Sherwin. I don't even know where Sherwin Road is, to tell you the truth.
That's Inkster, I believe.
Yeah. So yeah, no, most of these would be in Inkster Industrial Park.
Okay.
That said, again, when I made the comment about this being probably an inferior building, you can go through the pictures. It is slightly different design than what you've seen in the previous examples here. So,
Okay. And just some clarification on your legend, I guess. The tenancy type, I'm assuming that M is multi-tenant, O is owner, S is single. Is that
yes,
correct?
that's correct.
Okay. And the subject property is single tenant?
Single. I would believe it's actually owner, but
It's owner occupied?
yeah.
Okay. So these ones that you show as owner occupied, you've got rents there. Are those just book rents then?
That's correct. Yeah.
And you also mentioned land to building ratio. You take that into consideration. But I don't see a land to building ratio on your chart.
It's not in there. However, you can look at page, for the comparables.
Right.
Oh, yes. Sorry, that was missed.
Okay. But you, I'm sure you do a cursory
Yeah.
check on that. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. I thank you.
Yep.
Okay, let's move on to the next property then, please. 298 Archibald. When you're ready, Mr. Assessor.
Thanks, Chairman. The file number, excuse me, is 20-853. The roll year is 2021, based on a market reference date of April 1st, 2018. The address is 298 Archibald Street, and the owners are Phil Marr Trade Bindery Limited. If you look below my brief under the subject bid, you'll see the premise address again is 298 Archibald Street. The premise area is 27,040 square feet. The base annual rent value we are assessing is $6.23 a square foot. And if you look below to the right of my brief, you'll see the occupancy costs. We are assessing the heat, electricity, water for the total entire area. And only 1,500 square feet of the area is being air conditioned. So we're only assessing that 1,500 square feet, which gives the total occupancy cost of $57,574. And overall, we are using an annual rent value of $226,020. Before I do continue with my brief, though, I was able to look at, I just kind of, for this particular property, I was doing a bit more research and looking into it. And there were some aspects that I felt that...
Mr. Assessor, I'm sorry, we're getting quite a bit of feedback. Is everyone getting feedback on? Or
A little bit.
Yes.
Yeah. Yes.
Okay.
Here by myself. Sorry, I'll just, maybe it could be, hold on, I'll just something here. Can you hear me okay now, I guess, or?
That's better for me.
Okay. Yeah, maybe it's because maybe I'll talk further out, sorry, so I apologize.
Yeah. Sorry to interrupt.
Oh, no problem. As I was saying, like we are currently assessing at $226,020. However, just doing a bit more research on this property and looking at some of the attributes of the property, such as the wall heights and the its land to plan ratio. It's like if you actually look on, I just maybe give you a little idea. If you look at page 2 of my brief on the back, you'll just kind of see a picture of the property. Just kind of you'll see where it's located on Plinkett and Archibald, and you'll see it's behind the train tracks there as well. So what I'm proposing is I'm proposing a recommendation to an adjustment to the rent from the 623 to $5.50 a square foot, which would give us a revised annual rental value of $206,280.
206,000
280.
280.
280, correct.
Okay, and that, I'm sorry, that's 550 per square foot?
550, correct. And just to I'll just kind of go a bit more. I'll iterate that down.
Okay. Mr. Navarro, are you in agreement with the recommendation?
I like the fact that the assessor has made a recommendation. Unfortunately, I can't accept it because I have no authorization to accept it from the owner.
No problem.
It's not
Okay.
something, if I would have heard about this ahead of time, I could have maybe talked to the owner about it.
Right.
But I didn't have time.
No, I
Okay.
apologize. That's kind of
No,
something
not a problem. We'll continue on then, please, Mr. Hunt.
thank you, Mr. Chairman. So that being the case, I'm still going to stick with the 550. But if you look below, you'll see this is an owner-occupied property. So there are subject lease information, and below that you'll see a list of my rent comparables. You'll see they range from 21,700 square feet up to 30,400 square feet, and the rents range from $5.50 a square foot to $6.50 a square foot. Some of my comparables, they are further away from the subject property. I had some trouble finding, similar. I tried to find similar buildings to the comparables to the building in terms of its, things such as its obviously its age, wall height, and such as that. So I did have to. Some of my comparables are further away, like in Church and Mountain, Sargent. So they're kind of around more the Inkster industrial area. And I have two from St. James. So we'll be a little bit superior in that area than that case. So that's why they'd be maybe slightly higher in some cases. So. But that being the case, so I am asking the board to confirm the value, the recommended value at $206,280. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Navarro, questions for the assessor?
I have no questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Davidson, questions?
I have no questions. Thank you.
Mr. Hutchings?
No questions, thank you.
Thank you. Just clarification, your comparables are mostly Inkster Industrial Park. What is the age of the subject property?
It is 1978.
1978?
Yes.
So those are closer in age than, say, the St. Boniface Industrial Park?
Yes, I would. Yeah, they would definitely fall more in that range. Whereas, some of the ones in St. Boniface would be newer buildings potentially. Yeah, so.
Okay, I thank you. Okay, Mr. Navarro, we'll hear from you, please.
Again, this is 298 Archibald Street, roll number 2210. You can see the summary on page 2 with an outside picture. There are very tight conditions in this property. As you can see here, there's not much to the north. And you can see Archibald Street here. So this runs north-south. So these vehicles that you would see parked there are facing north. There's not much space in between there and the office portion of the property that you can see there. And even in terms of the shipping facilities, it's a tight squeeze in there. I've actually inspected this building. I've been inside it. I was actually the last person in it from our group. On page 3, you can see an overhead picture of it. Page 5, you can see our rent comparables. There was some difficulty in finding rents in this area. It seems like there is a lot of owner-occupied older buildings, and this is not the newer portion of St. Boniface. This would be older industrial properties built in the 1960s and 70s. And you can see our property was also built in the 1970s. The closest comparison is probably 903 Marion Street. It's not too far away from our subject. That one is 17,444 square feet. Rent of 301. Wall height between 12 and 20 feet. M3 zoning. what you'll note about our property, as the assessor has mentioned, it is again built in 1978. It has a wall height of 12 feet around the entire property, except for the office portion. And it is situated right beside a set of railroad tracks. So when you're inside the property, you can actually feel the train as it goes by. On page 5, you can see, or page 6, you can see my workup. And in the appendix, you can see some of the pictures I took of the interior. This is the office interior. That is basically the main production facility, and this is a printing and trade bindery company. You can see the wall height. It is 12 feet. It's not excessively high. Most of the heating and air conditioning is done through these types of heating units here. You can see off to the right, there's a suspended unit there. And again, going through some of those pictures, the shipping facilities, you will find that it's not the largest shipping facilities, and in terms of the height of the doors on the shipping facilities, it only allows for a maximum 5-ton truck in there. So no semi-trailers or anything like that would make their way in there. A lot of the space is actually used for storage of old equipment, storage of supplies. There's also some exterior pictures of it, and at the very end, you can see some of where I'm talking about the train. There was actually a train going by while I was inspecting it also, and the shipping facilities. And I've also put some of the comparables on there. So the last comparable that you'll see and this is the very last page. You can see Marion Street there. That is actually not that far away from our comparable. So that is my presentation.
Thank you. Mr. Harlan, questions for the applicant?
I have no questions, thank you.
Mrs. Davidson?
You probably already said this, but the ceiling height looks really, or the height of the wall ceiling looks really low. What is the height again?
12 feet.
12. So this is a bindery right now?
Yeah, it's printing and binding.
Okay. So what else can this low height of ceiling be used for? Like it's light industrial.
It is light industrial, so I would say that it's suited for its original purpose, which was probably binding and printing. However, it could be used for storage, although at 12 feet, you're kind of limited to how high you can go. I mean, in terms of racking. I guess some type of production where height is not really an issue. I think for storage warehousing, you would be kind of limited because of the height restrictions. So if you walk into a modern storage facility that's used for warehousing, you can see the racking in there and it goes quite high. So that would be the reason that modern facilities have high wall heights over 26 feet. This facility is obsolete in that sense. So it would be limited in terms of what you could do with it.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Hutchings?
No, I'm good. Thank you. No questions.
Thank you. Just a little further on your comp 6, 903 Marion. What would the cross street be there? Marion?
Archibald. So it's just slightly east of Marion and Archibald. So if you look at the picture there, okay, you can't see it here, but the tracks are actually just west of there. The same tracks that
I'm talking about comp 6.
Yeah.
Marion?
Yeah. So if you look at the picture there are actually some tracks that are directly west of there. And oh, sorry. The cross street would then be Panet and Marion. So it's
Okay.
It's basically in that corner there. Yeah.
Okay, and also on your table of your comps, I don't see a column showing what it is. I'm assuming it's single or owner. What is the occupancy of number 6?
It is single.
So it's not owner occupied.
No. There was an actual lease that we got out of it.
Okay, and that ended in 15.
Yeah.
Do you know what was that renewed? Is there?
I don't know. We had no further information on it. It was low, as you can see, but I'm not near $3 per square foot.
Right. Okay, I thank you.
Mr. Chair, could I
Yes.
request a 5-minute break, please?
Yes, we will certainly do that. We'll take 5 minutes, so back at 10:05, please. I'll call a recess.
Okay.
We can resume the hearing.
Thank you. I'll call the meeting back to order. Next item on our docket is 700 Mission Street. When you're ready, Mr. Assessor,
Thank you, Mr.
we'll
Chair.
hear from you, please.
Thank you. The file number is 20-863. The roll year is 2021, based on a reference date of April 1st, 2018. The address is 700 Mission Street, and the owners are Western Rawhide and Harness Energy Incorporated. If you look below on my brief, you'll see under the subject bid, again, the address is 700 Mission Street. The premise area is 35,760 square feet. And we're using a base annual rental value of $6 per square foot, which gives us a base annual rental value of $214,560. There's actually just a quick correction I would like to make, actually. The actual, if you look at the base rent, we do have it at $6. However, the actual rent we are using right now is $5.25 a square foot. The reason this being is there actually was a 2020 BA hearing on this particular business last year that I actually dealt with, and at that time the board actually had reduced the value. Originally, it was actually assessed at $302,160. So that was the one that was based at the $6 rent. So based on the decision, the assessment was revised to $275,340, which was based on an adjustment to the rent of $525. So if you see the annual rent value in my brief, you'll see it at $275,340. However, the reason that number is showing up in there is because in our system, we overrode the value to $275,340. So we were just carrying it over because it's a 2-year cycle. So 2020 and 21 would be the same. So I just wanted to kind of clarify that, just so it's not actually a $6 rent, and the $275,340 was the actual decision made in the 2020 BA hearing. So we're just carrying that value over.
So, Mr. Assessor, the $275,340, if you took the total occupancy cost of $87,612 away from that, then that number would be divisible by the premise area of 35,760. It would come to 525.
Yes, yeah. Well, basically, or maybe actually, hold on. I think I might have the workup here. Actually, let me bring that. Yeah, based on the workup I have here, yeah, like the The total occupancy cost actually would be the same. There's no change in the occupancy cost. Actually, it would still be $87,612. Again, it's just the base rent. We have it at $214,560. That's on the $6 rent. Based on the $525 rent, it would actually be $187,740. I apologize. I was going to put this in my brief. The hearing just kind of show what happened. So.
But on your brief, the base ARV of $214,560, that's the $6 rent.
That is correct. That is the $6 rent. So, but the problem is like the actual annual rent value at $275,340. That's actually based on $525 rent at $187,740, which unfortunately I didn't. And the reason when I printed out the brief, it popped up with this is because when we create our briefs, it was already overridden in the system, so that's why it popped up like that. So.
Okay, so $187,740.
That is correct.
The base ARV.
That is correct.
Plus the occupancy costs
Exactly.
of $87,612.
Yeah.
Gives you the annual rental value $275,340.
That is correct.
Okay, thank you. Sorry to interrupt.
Oh, no problem. I know it was kind of confusing. I just wanted to clarify that. So.
Yeah. Please continue.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So that being the case, so again, as you would know, the revised annual rent value of $275,340 based on that decision. If you look below in the subject lease information, you'll see it's non-owner occupied property. However, I don't have any subject lease information listed because I wouldn't find anything. And below, you'll just kind of see some of my rent comparables. You'll see they range in sizes of 32,351 or 27,200 square feet up to 46,000 square feet, and the rents range from $5.50 a square foot to $8.07 a square foot. And some of the comparables are in the slightly different market region. Debates would be kind of in St. Bottom's Industrial, Newark, Church, Inkster, Lashmody, slightly closer to the subject, and Mountain and Paquin, they're further away as well. So I had some trouble finding comparables in the area, so I did have to extend my reach bit for some of my comparable rents. So you'll just see again lease terms, lease start dates, and that being the case, I believe the value at $275,340, which was previously assessed based on the previous hearing, which was recommended or which was decided on, just to carry that value going forward. So I asked the board to confirm that value. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Navarro, questions for the assessor?
Just the basic ones. This is all model driven, and the comparables that you've put in your brief, you've chosen yourself.
That is correct.
Okay. And have you had an opportunity to inspect this property?
I have not, no.
Okay. Those are my questions.
Thank you. Ms. Davidson?
I have no questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Hutchins?
Yes, thank you. Mr. Harling, just to confirm, the annual rental value of $275,340 reflects a 2020 Board of Revision decision?
That is correct.
Okay, thank you very much. That's all my questions.
You just, I think you mentioned that you were having trouble finding comparables in the area, but the comparables you do have, the 525 rent that's been applied is lower than all your comparables, I see.
That is correct, yes. Originally, yeah, the $6 rent, but until I realized my mistake, so.
Okay. Thank you. Mr. Navarro, when you're ready, we'll hear your evidence, please.
Okay, this is 700 Mission Street. Roll number is 3063. On page 2, you can find our summary with the front picture of the property. This is Western Rawhide. Applicable legislation on page 3. Premise description on page 4. Again, this was built in 1973. 18 foot wall height. I believe the front section is actually a little bit lower than 18 feet. However, the main portion, which is the light manufacturing section, is 18 feet. Doesn't have proper access doors for large delivery vehicles and has no proper paving. And again, this is M3 zoned. It's near a spur line, and the land to building ratio is quite small at 1.75 to 1. In page 5, you can see our market comparables, again, not driven by comparables from this area. We had some difficulty finding comparables in this area, although we probably could have used the one on Marion Street. So our average was $5.75. Our median says $5.95. We've gone with a $5 per square foot rent. That should say $5.95, not $4.95. This is our calculation on page 6. Again, we've gone with a $5 rent. You can see the pictures that I've taken here in the appendix. As you can see, this is older industrial construction, really intended for its specific purpose. In terms of storage and warehousing opportunities in the future, there is room for some racking, but not very high. That is my presentation.
Thank you. Mr. Harling, questions for the applicant?
I have no questions, thank you.
Ms. Davison?
I have no questions, thank you.
Mr. Hutchins?
No questions, thank you.
I have no questions, thank you. So we can move on to the next property, 613 Marion Street. When you're ready, Mr. Assessor.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The file number is 20-854. The roll year is 2021, based on a market reference date of April 1st, 2018. The address is 613 Marion Street. The business name is Piston Ring Service, and the owners are 360106 Manitoba Incorporated. If you look below my brief under the subject bit heading, you'll see again the address is 613 Marion Street. The premise area, you're assessing at 16,980 square feet. We are applying a model rent of $5.77 a square foot, which gives us a base annual rent value of $97,975. If you look to the right of my brief under the occupancy costs, you'll see we are assessing heat, electricity, and water for full area, and only 3,840 square feet for air conditioning, which gives us a total occupancy cost of $37,133. If you add that to the base annual rent value, this gives us a total annual rent value of $135,120. If you look below my brief under the subject lease information, you'll see it's a not owner occupied. However, I don't have any lease information in place at this time. So, if you look below that, you'll see my rent comparables. You'll see my areas for my rent comparables range from 10,560 square feet to roughly 20,215 square feet. You'll see the rents range from $5.74 a square foot to $7.50 a square foot. And in terms of the areas for my rent comparables, I have the closest being one on Archibald. However, I do have some comparables further in other areas such as Notre Dame, Cole Avenue, which is closer to Nairn Avenue, Alexander, which is in the Logan area, and Duran, which is in the St. Miles Industrial Park. I did have some trouble finding comparables. I wanted to find comparables similar to the property because if you look at actually just kind of page 2 of my brief, you'll just kind of see the photo, just an aerial photo of the property. That's actually just on Marion Street, and then you'll see the train tractor beside it. So I was trying to find buildings of similar attributes in that case, close to railroad tracks and, similar in size and all those aspects. Again, same things as wall height and age. Like the age of the property is actually 1975, the effective year built. And my comparables range from 1965 to about 1988, the newest one. So I was trying to find comparables and that. So that's why I had to kind of expand my searches with. But that being the case, I asked the board to confirm the value of $135,000, 120 cents. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Navarro, questions?
No questions, thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Davidson, questions?
Did you say everything was all model based?
The rent is model based, like the comparables I chose, obviously. So
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Hutchings, questions?
No questions, thank you.
Did you state the age of the subject property?
yes, the effective year built is 1975.
1965?
Sorry, 75. Sorry.
1975. And your comparable is the one on Archibald. Do you know the age of that?
Yes, it's slightly newer at 1988.
1980?
88, sorry.
Thank you. And the one in Durand, is that in the St. Boniface Industrial Park?
That is correct. And that's 79 for that one, for 1979, the effective year built.
1979? Okay. And the area that's air conditioned, I'm making the assumption that's the front portion, that's the office?
Yes, that's what I would, again, I haven't inspected this, but that's what I would, my assumption would be, yes.
Okay. And you say with the effective age was 1975. If I look at the overhead, it looks like there's maybe two different roof systems. So is the rear portion, is that maybe an addition?
Yes, actually, the original building was built in 1962, and there actually was we have a portion of the building built in 2007. It's a smaller portion, so majority of the building would be older though. So.
Okay. All right, thank you. Mr. Navarro, when you're ready, we'll hear your evidence, please.
Yeah, 613 Marion Street, roll 55133. On page 2, you can see my summary with the picture of the property, bird's eye view. You can see the set of tracks. These are the same set of tracks that we saw on the Archibald property. And the general location, you can see just a little bit west of Archibald Street. On page 3, applicable legislation. If you turn to page 4, you can see the premise description here. And again, this is between Archibald Street and Nicholas Avenue. Constructed in 1962 with later additions in 2005 and 2007. The larger portion of the structure is the original building built in 1962. The structure is steel frame, metal cladding with a 20-foot wall height. And there you can see the zoning and the site dimensions, 41,732 square feet. On page 5, you can see the rents that we've chosen. Some of these don't come from the area. Number 6 obviously is the closest one. It's just down the street from this one, 903 Marion Street, built in 1973, 17,444 square feet, $303.01. That the wall height ranges between 12 and 20 feet. And then we have some other comparables coming from other areas. You'll see the pictures in the appendix. As mentioned, in terms of the quality of the structure, this is a steel frame, metal clad building, very much just like a regular workshop. just a little bit larger. Occupancy costs on page 5 and the calculation of the ARV on page 6. Again, we are asking for a rent of $3.75. 16,980 square feet gives us a total of 63,675. In addition to the occupancy cost, the total ARV is 100,808 or 100,800. And in the appendix, you can see the comparables. And in my opinion, the comparables that are here are superior to the subject, except for maybe the last property, which is, in my opinion, the most comparable, which is Marion Street. And that is my presentation.
Thank you. Mr. Harling, questions?
No, I have no questions. Thank you.
Ms. Davidson?
I do have a question. Your comparables that you selected have an average rent of $4 and a median of almost $4. That's quite different from the assessor's brief. Is there a lot of adjustment because of the site-specific nature of the building or location? Like, what's really driving these big differences?
Yeah, so a lot of that would be adjustment. And as you go through the comparables, you'll start to notice that some of the properties are slightly superior to what we're looking at in terms of the subject property. Again, on page 2, you can see an overhead picture, and this is a very, I hope I'm being clear on this in terms of what I'm saying. This is a very basic building design. You're looking at not the most advanced type of construction. What you have in some of the comparables are, masonry, steel buildings that are, in my opinion, superior. They have better loading facilities. So yes, to answer your question, a lot of that comes from the adjustments itself. We're looking at the age of the building, and let's be clear, most of the structure was built in 1962. So it is a slightly older building than the properties that we're comparing it to, which are mainly built in the 1970s and 1980s. That's why I'm saying that the one on Marion Street, which is down the street, is probably a good comparison in terms of what you would probably get for a rent in this area. And if you've ever driven down this portion of Marion, you'll notice that a lot of the buildings are of this vintage, metal-clad steel frame structures, older buildings, often owner-occupied, but when they are leased, I don't think you're seeing lease rates that are as high as some of the other properties that are coming from, for example, industrial parks, more modern industrial parks. So in that sense, yes, it is coming from adjustments.
Okay, thank you very much for that.
Mr. Hutchings? Sorry, I think you're muted.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Mr. Navarro, I'm looking at your comps on page 5. And comp 1 is at $5.25 a square foot. Maybe I'll just start by saying the effective age of the subject property is 1975. Is that correct?
That is the effective age that the city has. Again, what I'm saying is that the original structure, which makes up the majority of the property, was built in 1962.
Okay. Okay, so let's go through these comps on page 5. Number 1, similar size, 5 1/4 a square foot. Comps number 2 to 5 are basically double the size of the subject property.
Okay, yeah. No, and I agree that they are bigger.
Yeah, so there would be economy of scale involved there, I believe. net
Yep.
rent. And the last one is 301 a square foot, about the same size on Marion. Okay, so, and you're choosing 375, and I think you've detailed why you've chosen that, so we won't go there. And my last question is, you keep on referring to railway tracks. I'm wondering in an industrial area why, I don't know if you're implying that's a negative influence, or I'm not sure where you're going with that reference to the railway tracks all the time.
I guess in this case, because of the proximity to the railroad tracks, and my experience in the Archibald property is that anytime a train goes by, and those aren't spur lines that we're talking about, those are actually main railway lines. So you actually do feel the tremors of the train as they're going by. So I mean, if your business is such that that type of activity is not going to be a hindrance to what you're doing, then great. But if you're if you have something where you're having clients come in all the time, then yeah, it's going to be a hindrance because you're going to feel it.
Okay, fair enough. Okay,
yeah.
Thank you for the explanation. That's all my questions. Thank you.
Okay, you just referenced 903 Marion again, and I can see why it's a good location. It's comparable in the leasable area. The only problem is it's a 1-year lease from 2015, so
Yeah.
we don't have it.
And I guess that's where I'm using it more as a benchmark than anything else. So I'm moving up from that one, and headed towards $4 per square foot. But again, what I'm looking at in terms of the subject is that these are old buildings. They're on Marion Street. This is an older area of industrial properties. If you take into consideration what I said about the location next to the rail lines, and I'm not saying that any property located near railway lines demands a deduction. It's just that because of its extreme closeness to these tracks, you will feel these trains going by as you're inside these buildings. So if that doesn't bother you, great. But if you have a type of business where you're having clients come in, then they're going to feel it also. I mean, I think in terms of whether you would be willing to pay extra being next to a railway line versus a spot that is further away, I don't think that would be the case. I would say that you'd probably pay less for that. But there's also the age in question of this property. So you see you mentioned yourself that you see different roof structures there, right? And you can see the three sections, the first being the closest one to Marion Street, which is the older section, and then the next two sections. So the age also has something to do with it. I hope that answers kind of what you're asking.
Thank you. Okay. That'll bring us to the last property on our docket today, which is 1331 Chevry Boulevard. So when you're ready, Mr. Assessor, we'll hear from you, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The file number is 20-838. The roll year is 2021, based on a market reference date of April 1st, 2018. The address is 1331 Chevry Boulevard, and the owners are Canadian Tool and Die Limited. If you look below my brief under the subject bid heading, you'll again see the address is 1331 Chevry Boulevard. We are assessing a total premise area of 100,009 square feet, and we are applying a model rent of $4.58 a square foot, which gives us a base annual rental value of $458,041. right of my brief, under the occupancy costs, you'll see we are assessing heat, electricity, water under the full area, and only 10,336 square feet of area for the air conditioning. This gives us a total occupancy cost of 214,533. If you even add this with the base annual rent value, this gives you a total annual rent value of $672,600. If you look below under my subject lease information, you'll see this is an owner-occupied property, so there are no subject leases in place. And further below under my rent comparables, you'll see a list of my comparables. My comparables range in size of 100,000 square feet up to 134,000 square feet. The rents range from $4.50 a square foot to $5.25 a square foot. And if you look at the lease terms, you'll see some of your longer term leases. Generally, you'll see longer term leases in the larger buildings like of this size. I'm not always, as you can see, some are smaller, but it's not uncommon to see a long term lease. And in terms of the area, you'll see, it's a variety of areas. I have Inkster, Keywait, McLeod, Bolts, and Fife. So they're all in different market regions. But when you're dealing with, buildings of this size, you have to kind of expand your search. You're not going to find too many 100,000 square foot buildings all in kind of the same area generally. So that's why I kind of had to expand my search a bit. Just a little bit more information. I know I don't have this in my brief, but I'll just kind of give you a bit more information. The effective year built of this building is 1976. And the wall heights range from 12 feet to about 42 feet. So there's many buildings on this property. If you actually look on page 2 of my brief, and you kind of see an overhead view of the property. So you'll see it's a large chunk of buildings kind of put together. So that's why the range is kind of high there. In terms of my comparables, they're similar in terms of wall heights too. They range from 14 feet to 28 feet. The highest being 31 feet. In terms of ages, 1970 to about 1990 is the range of ages. So they fall kind of within that same wall height range as well. So that being the case, I feel the model rent or the annual rental value of $672,600 is fair and equitable, and I ask the board to confirm the value. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Navarro, questions for the assessor?
I have no questions.
Ms. Davidson?
I have no questions either. Thank you.
Mr. Hutchins?
No questions, thank you.
Okay, you stated that your comparables are all in different areas than the subject. Is that because the larger buildings in Fort Garry are all owner occupied?
Yeah, exactly. That's another thing too. A lot of the bigger ones are owner occupied, so there's not really a lot of lease information to kind of use as comparables. So, and like I said, they're larger buildings, so there's a little bit. You have less. There's less comparables out there too, just due to the fact of the larger buildings. So.
Okay, and the comparables that you did select, they're similar in age and the percentage of office area or the air conditioned area?
Unfortunately, I can't speak to I didn't check the actual occupancy costs in terms of air conditioning. In terms of age, they are similar in age. Like I said, the subject property, we have an effective year built of 1976, and the comparables might range from 1970 to the newest being 1990, but the majority of them are 1979, 68, 68, 70, so they're in that range. So.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Navarro, when you're ready, we'll hear your evidence, please.
Okay. And again, this is 1331 Chevrolet. This is roll number 605. On page 2 or page 1, you can see the summary with the picture at the front. On page 2, there is a property description here. Again, this is between at this intersection of Chevrolet Boulevard and Adeline Street. Manufacturing, warehouse, storage facility with office area. We'll go through the sections here. Again, there are 8 sections here built between 1964 and 1994. The assessment department has an overall effective age of 1976, and there is a plan area of 102,186. The wall height ranges from 16 feet all the way to 42 feet. And again, the property records show almost 29% of the building floor area has a wall height of 16 feet or less. For the purposes of this appeal, we are using a leasable area of 100,009 square feet. And this is M2 zoning, 7.81 acres. You can see an overhead shot of this property here. It is the one with a little mark here. The general area. The applicable legislation on page 4. And in terms of the base rent, we've looked at, we've chosen a rent of $4.25 per square foot. You can see some of the comparables here. These are specifically what I would call 100,000 square foot facilities. And again, the assessor is right. There are only so many of these 100,000 square foot plus facilities in Winnipeg. I would ignore number 6, and that would likely throw off the average and the median here. Again, I think we've basically looked at these and said what is the most comparable, taking into effect the different portions of the building. Again, you have a large section of the property being built between 1964 and 1969, and then another section that was built in 1994, which is 32,000 square feet. So that would be the reasoning for having a 1976 effective age. We went from 1963 all the way to 1977. And our occupancy costs on page 7 and our workup on page 7. So we're asking for an ARV of 639,540. And in the appendix, you can see the comparables that we've listed. That is my presentation. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Harlan, questions for the applicant?
I have no questions, thank you.
Ms. Davidson?
Just a quick question. The subject properties on Chevrier, and you presented comps from across the city for the same reason the assessor did. What, which ones do you see as closest to the Chevrier subject property of the comps you've selected?
Well, I don't think that there's an exact mix, perfect mix here, but I would say probably in terms of what I was looking at, maybe 680 Mission Street. Even Inkster Boulevard. And again, you can view some of these in the pictures that we've detailed. So I don't think that there is a perfect match for these, and that's probably the reasoning for making adjustments. But yeah, I would say probably in terms of what I've looked at here, the one that makes a lot of sense to me is probably Mission.
And location doesn't play in terribly in terms of heavy or light industrial?
Location can play a part in certainly in market values and lease rent values. However, I think I'm probably in agreement with the assessor on this, that when you start getting into properties of this size, there's only so many of these to go around in the city. So they are where they are. As long as they are intended for the same purpose, then there should be some consistency in the lease values, no matter where you are in the city.
Okay, thank you very much. That's all my questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Hutchins.
Yes, thank you. Mr. Navarro, is there a reason why you're getting a different square footage leasable area larger than the assessor? Is there a reason why you don't use that calculation in your workup?
Because that is a plan area versus a leasable area. There's a slight difference.
Okay, of course, yeah, okay, fair enough. And you're asking for 639,540. So you're asking for a reduction of about less than 5%. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. That's my only question. Thank you.
Thank you. I just wanted to clarify that area calculation. You said that the 102, 186 was a plan area. Did you take that from plans, or like how did you determine that?
Yeah. So I don't know if you've ever seen the assessment realty briefs that list the gross areas, the plan areas, and then the leasable areas. So
Right.
the plan area is, effectively taken from the plans. Not all of that is leasable. So that's why there is a slight discrepancy between the
So
leasable.
this 102, 186 was from the realty records of the assessment department?
No, I believe that was our own calculations taken from the owner, although I can probably find this in the actual assessor's records. Yeah.
Okay. And your comparables, sorry, let me just get to that page. Number 6, it's showing a net rent of 0. You said you would just ignore that, but was that part of this average and median calculation?
Again, that's why I said I also actually mentioned that we probably should ignore the average and the median also, because
so the average and the median would be higher than what you've shown.
Exactly. So I think what's happened here is that when I transferred the data over to this spreadsheet, it copied over the wrong cell. And rather than copying the rent cell, it probably copied something else over. And I didn't notice it when I copied it over. But yeah, I would ignore that as well as the average and the median, because it would skew those.
Okay, and I believe your answer to Ms. Davidson regarding the best comp, you're stating mission, and that's I see that the original lease is January of 09, 13-year lease, or 14. And so the 416, when is that effective? I'm assuming that there's a step up.
You can see the step ups there.
Sorry. So that's May of 19?
That's January 16. Or January 16.
Sorry, that was King Edward. January 16 is 416?
Yeah.
And then it's going to step again
after
in December of 19.
Yeah, January of 20. Yeah.
Yeah. And What type of business is being done at Mission? Do you know?
I don't. No, sorry.
It's Canadian Tool and Die. So I'll be honest, I'm not exactly familiar with what they do there too. So I'm just making tools of some sort. So
Thank you for that.
Mr. Chair,
Yes,
could I ask a question arising, please?
certainly.
Okay, Mr. Navarro, so you said we're looking at the comps on page 6. If you remove that 1,000 King Edward Street, what is your revised average and median?
Let me just check. Do you have a minute?
Of course.
Okay. I get 436,
Is the average or the median?
the average.
Okay, and the median?
Oh, the median. That might be a little bit trickier.
Would it be about $5?
I'm not sure.
High fours.
Yeah, if it's 451 now, if you take out the 0, you go to the next one, which would be 499.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. And my last question is, in your opinion, is the Fort Garry Industrial Park superior to the comps?
So what I would say is that this is an older part of Fort Garry. So this is an older industrial park area. If you're not, I would say that it is comparable to those areas.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
And as mentioned, this is, 100,000 square feet plus. So we only have so many of these around the city. So.
All right. Thank you very much for that, Mr. Navarro.
Yeah.
That's all my questions, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Just a little clarification here. I look at your lease comparables number 9 and 10. They're both 820 Barry, which is a multi-tenanted building. One's 125,000 square feet.
Yeah.
At 451, one's 148,000 square feet at $2, which is quite a discrepancy.
Yeah.
Do you know, is it a level of finish? Is it a...
I would probably say that it probably has to do with that. Yeah, it would be very basic building at $2 per square foot. So maybe what you're looking at there is just basic storage area versus a more functional area.
Okay, but that's just a...
Yeah.
You're surmising there. You don't know for certain.
Yeah. No.
Okay.
And just be clear also that 820 Berry Street, if you're familiar with that facility, that is probably the largest building terms of square footage warehouse building in Winnipeg. So there's not much larger than that.
Is that the one Barrie and Wellington?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, thank you. That will conclude our properties on the docket. Is there a desire for a summation at all for all the properties, or do you just want it to stand on what's presented? Mr. Harlan?
Yeah, I'm just leaving, rely on the evidence. That's definitely, yeah.
Thank you. And Mr. Navarro?
The same. I have no need for us summarizing.
All right, thank you very much both for your presentations today. The orders will come by registered mail in due course, and thank you both.
Thank you,
Good day.
everyone.
With that, I will call the hearing to a close.
Thank you.
Thank you.